your flesh and blood.
Welcome to Tell Me Your Story, new paradigms for a new world where we're giving you choices and knowledge of those choices to help make your dreams come true. We are here 9 times a week, Sundays at 7 a.m. and 7 p.m., Monday mornings at 1 a.m., Wednesdays at 9 a.m., and Monday through Friday from 8 to 9 a.m., streaming live at all those times at richarddugan.com. We are on SoundCloud, iTunes, TuneIn Radio, Spotify, Stitcher, Player FM, as well as YouTube, where you can watch these conversations. I hope that you will take time to subscribe and click notifications so that when a new conversation is posted, you'll be notified and you'll be able to tune in, listen in, and learn, be entertained and inspired. A reminder that Choices, which is my book, 5 Steps for Life, it's available on Amazon.com in paperback, hardcover, and Kindle with Audible, soon to be released. We also ask that if you can support the work that we are doing financially, we do have a PayPal account. It is there for your security as well as ours. And when they ask for an email address to whom you're sending, please go to richard@richarddugan.com. That's the email address. If you go to richarddugan.com, there is also a link directly to PayPal so that you can send us whatever support you can. And we thank you to those who have helped and to those who will help. We also ask that you take time during this decade of perfect vision, the 2020s, to go within to that quiet, peaceful, calm, still place and listen to that still, small voice. And with that, we now take you to our very special interview and guest here on Tell Me Your Story. And welcome to Tell Me Your Story. I am Reverend Dr. D. Richard Dugan. It is a pleasure to have you with us here on the program with New Paradigms for a New World, giving you choices and knowledge of those choices to help make your dreams come true. And we are very excited about our program because, well, you know, we're always talking about change. That is the one constant in the universe. Well, we're going to talk about this with our very special guest. She's written a very interesting book. I was intrigued more by the title than anything else. And Andra Douglas is my guest, and she's written a book that has to do with, I don't know, I want to say sort of the speed of things, because it's called Changing Cadence. Welcome to our program.
Thank you very much.
This is very interesting because the book, which is actually a novel. It's not a step-by-step or anything like that. Changing Cadence is part memoir, so we're going to learn about you especially. It's also a part novel, and it follows this one woman facing the end of her career in women's tackle football. Wait a minute. I didn't realize that women were playing. I know this is a novel, but I also know, too, that there is, in the real world, there is women's flag football. Is there, even in today, tackle football for women?
Oh, it's bigger than ever. There's well over 100 teams across the country. It's gone into Europe. There's women's tackle teams really all over the world at this point.
Now, you yourself are an athlete. I mean, you played, and I have to say, I've only seen one game of rugby. A good friend of mine and I went down to Los Angeles to the Coliseum to watch the LA rugby team, men's rugby team, play a game. And we watched some of it because we were actually doing segments for a radio program too. And I got to tell you, for me, it was as difficult to try to follow as cricket in England is to follow in terms of the rules. But my goodness, these guys are not wearing pads, and yet they bang into each other pretty darn hard. So I would think that, I mean, how does a woman toughen up for something like that? My goodness.
Oh gosh, we're just as tough as the men. We just don't have the opportunities as the men do to do that. But you know, you should have seen when when the team first started, the New York Sharks. We had people come out that had never played any kind of sports, but they'd always wanted to play tackle football, never had the chance. There was a woman, I'm not making this up, she was 70 years old, and she was a kicker for the Orlando team. And she actually got out there and played just because finally she had the chance.
I was going to say, because she can.
Because she can. Yep. Uh-huh.
Yeah, it's that old proverbial question. Well, why would you climb that mountain, Mount Everest? Because it's there and
Because it's
because I
there.
can. I mean,
Exactly.
I've interviewed a number of people. One gentleman, I want to say Tom, I think it was Weinmeier, blind mountain climber who
What?
scaled Everest. Yeah,
Oh,
and
now,
I have a feeling it was more because he wanted to have that under his belt, saying, I climbed Mount Everest, but
yeah.
also he wanted to do it. In other words, he wanted to have that as an accomplishment in his life that, hey, we blind people can do anything that anybody else can do, and women are the same way. I grew up with four sisters, so I
Oh,
know they can do whatever they want to do. And my youngest sister, oh my God, she is one of the most incredible planners slash organizers and so forth. I don't think any of them really went into sports, but you did. What was it about athletics? I mean, it's good for us to get out. I mean, I need to get out and take. Well, I'm 66, and I used to bicycle everywhere. I used to have thighs that I couldn't get both hands around. Okay, now I can. I'm 66 now, and I bicycled everywhere as a child because I didn't drive. Um, but I loved bicycling. All over Phoenix, Scottsdale, Tempe,
great.
Glendale, Avondale. I mean, the list goes on. I was all over the place.
That's great.
I loved it. So, what is it about these rough and tumble sports that intrigued you so much? Was it that I want to do it because I can, and because I'm a woman, I want to prove the rest of the world, or was there something inside of Andra that said, I just want to? This looks like fun.
Yeah, it did look like fun. And I grew up in Florida, very big football state. My dad took me to, the Dolphin games, the Florida Gators, the high school games. I just fell in love with the sport, and everyone was in love with football around there. So I'd go, out in the yard after school and play with the boys, and football was just my favorite. I had nothing to prove. There was something about the sport, the angles, the inches. It was just it was far more interesting than the other sports to me.
Hmm. Now, I know that women have been getting into all of the different arenas, and I'm not speaking specifically about sports, and politics and business, and so on and so on and so on. I I I feel sad for our societies and cultures that don't allow women to go into some of these areas because, man, some of these women have had some great ideas. I
Yeah,
mean, they have contributed to the process of our growing civilization, if you are, growing societies.
right.
Talk to us about how women involved in these sports in particular has, from your perspective, your observation as a woman, has changed our society. I don't even want to use for better or for worse, just changed it because that's the
Yeah.
reality.
It has changed. I will say for better.
Okay.
But I think, well, okay, women's sports right now is coming up on reaching $3 billion a year in revenues from different places.
Hmm.
And it's not because it's not because the women weren't capable before that. And this is women's sports, not, as you said, political or anything else.
Right.
Um, it wasn't that we weren't capable. No one paid attention, no one funded, no one advertised. And then, all of a sudden, we get a little bit of sponsorship, we take off, we start to there becomes a feeder system, so we get better and better and better, and boom, all of a sudden we're just as viable as the men's. And I think that's just going to continue to go.
Mm,
Just keep growing.
yeah. It's interesting that specifically in politics, and from what I recall as a kid growing up in the 60s, there were a couple of women. I'm thinking of Barbara Marx Hubbard, but also was it Leslie Chisholm, I think it was, who was running on a campaign for president, and of course Geraldine
I
Ferraro
remember her name. Yeah.
and
Hmm.
Hillary, and then of course of late Kamala Harris. And the thing that really gets me is the criticism that is heaped on women in politics, in particular,
Yeah.
and it's those stereotypical things. And here's the thing that I think of, and this I don't want to get into the politics per se, but in this last campaign, the argument was raised, well, here's what's going to happen if she's elected. We're going to get into a war, and this is going to happen, and this is going to happen, and this is going to happen. And it's like, well, I voted for her, and guess what? We're exactly where they said we'd be, but she's not president.
Right.
And again, I'm not going down that road per se, but it just seems as though I would vote for my sisters. The triad that's left, my eldest sister has since passed, but I'd vote for my three sisters right now as co-presidents to run the place, because they do a hell of a lot better job than a lot of the men that have been in there, as good as some of them have been,
Yes, absolutely.
as good as some of them have been. But in sports, it's the same thing. What, and I'm curious as to your take on this controversy in sports with this one journalist, sports journalist, I guess it was, and her involvement. And again, I don't know what it was, but the speculation is with one of these coaches. And it's like, okay, what they do on their own time, but yet at the same time, both of them are in the public limelight. They can't escape that. Do you feel that a woman in sports in general, or in the public eye, needs to watch, even she should be like men should be, she should be watching her P's and Q's as well? It's kind of like Gary Hart said, hey, I'm not a philanderer, follow me, I'll show you. And they did, and he was. Can you talk a little bit about that? I don't want to just go down that road, but I just find there's a certain element of hypocrisy in all of this.
There's a huge element of hypocrisy. You're absolutely right. Um, for centuries, eons, the men have been given birthrights, really. And the women come along and they're told to, we need to do this, we need to do that. You should wear this, say this, do this. And when it comes right down to it, I think everyone should mind their P's and Q's. And I don't mean, uh, I mean, if you're a role model, whether
Hmm.
you're male or female, just behave yourself. I mean,
Yeah.
um, and unfortunately, well, I mean, this is an old saying, but it's so true. If a man is successful in business, he's smart. He's a
Yeah.
great businessman. If a woman's successful, she's a bitch.
Hmm.
This is the word they use, and
Yeah.
that is so unfair. It really is, and that's across the board. Whether you're in business, politics, sports, society has just kind of suppressed us and made us feel that we should not do certain things. And I think, we're trying to rise above that, and then we've got things going on that are trying to put us back in that same mold. But hopefully, that won't happen to a
Yeah.
large degree.
I know there are a lot of people that are concerned over us going down the road of a rather popular, I understand it is a book series, or a novel, but it's also a television series. They're afraid we're going to go down The Handmaid's Tale. You
Yeah,
know, that's
yeah.
that's a real concern on the part of a lot of people. I want to talk a little bit about the accomplishments of women. Matter of fact, I just produced a couple of sound bites for a friend of mine who's on the New York station, WABC, there on Saturday, Friday, and Saturday nights, or actually Saturday morning, Sunday morning, midnight to 2. And he had me put these things together for in regards to Amelia Earhart,
Mm.
and of course all of the speculations. But I'm thinking, wow, this is incredible that she would want to fly. And I'm thinking of the Wright brothers, and who were some of the women that may have come along after the Wright brothers, but before Amelia. There had to have been others, but or maybe Amelia was the first one. And I'm thinking, well, who were her role models in sports? Who were your role models?
Um, I, Babe Zaharias, she was one of the ones that was always mentioned to me.
Mhm.
Um, as I got older, well, Billie Jean King is huge to me. To me, Billie Jean King has done more for women, not just in sports, but for women than any other woman that I know. Um, and she was definitely a role model. She was courageous. She stood behind what she believed, and she's made a huge, huge impact. But she went through it to
Yeah.
become who she is today. She was ridiculed and ostracized, and you name it.
Who did
So,
she play in that Battle of the Sexes? She and
Bobby Riggs.
thank you. My wife and I were trying to remember who that was that she played against, and she just I think she didn't she take him to the cleaners.
She did.
She did, yeah.
Yeah. But here's the horrible thing. Yes, she beat him fair and square. I don't care what the circumstances were, but the rumors are that, oh, it was all a setup. Oh, it was planned that way from day one. God forbid a woman beat a man.
Yeah.
And it hurts when I hear things like that
Yeah.
because it's just not, again,
Yeah.
not fair. Not fair.
No, it's not. We're talking with Andra Douglas, and her latest work, her novel, which we hope you'll get a copy of, is called Change in Cadence, if you will. We're going to talk about some other things as well as we continue here talking with her. What website do you want us to send Changing Cadences? I beg your pardon, Changing Cadence, singular. What website do you want us to send people to, aside from Amazon, where they can find out more about you, maybe connect with you if they're maybe they're interested in getting into a particular sport.
I'd love it if someone wants to reach out. The best website is andradouglasart.com.
And that's ART.
Yes, AndraDouglasArt.com. I'm also an artist. I'm an author and an athlete, and it kind of has all three of those things highlighted on that website.
Excellent, excellent. All right, well, send people there as we continue here on Tell Me Your Story. This is an interesting program talking about women, not just in sports. And our particular woman of the hour, if you will, we're talking with is Andra Douglas, and her book is Changing Cadence, which is an interesting term, sort of most people would think of it in terms of sports. As our conversation unfolds here, we have, and I think of this in terms of the word cadence, we have the Kentucky Derby coming up. I got to tell you how much fun I love watching those horses run. I don't care what the race is, or wild horses in documentaries and that kind of thing. They are so beautiful in the power that's especially in those hindquarters that are pushing off
Yeah.
and they're racing along. It's just a magnificent, and so I'm real excited about that. And they are trying to speed up the cadence there and really move forward. The changing cadences, what are you referring to? Is it specifically what we've already been talking about previously? How things are changing and things maybe are speeding up? Or could it also mean that it's going maybe veering in another direction, especially for women?
Well, I mean, my book is really about three things. The first thing is football, obviously. This particular book is about intergenerational relationships. And at any age, whether you're a child, kindergarten, going to first, moving into first grade, uh, going off to college, getting a new job, you're always changing and moving ahead to the next chapter.
Mm,
And in football, that particular phrase is meant when the quarterback's calling the plays. And if you change the cadence, it will make the defense jump, hopefully. So it was kind of a play on that because yes, it's a football term, but it's just about transition at any age.
hmm
Um, so I include both age groups, the young and the old, in this book, and the unlikely friendships that strike up between the two of them. It is based on a true story, and so it just shows that everyone needs the friendships and everyone goes through the changes, no matter what age.
There have been women down through history, and I've been around 66, almost 66 years, a very, very brief time on the planet. And I've seen a lot of women who have achieved some incredible things. Some scientists. I have to tell you, I admire, and I wish I could remember her first name. She is a scientist, I think a microbiologist. I may be wrong about that, but she was also one of the cast members on The Big Bang Theory. And so she's doing both. She's a scientist and she's an actor. That's pretty cool, I thought,
Yeah.
because she's coming from authenticity in that regard. Um, when we see women achieving things, and you've achieved quite a bit, I'm curious. You talked about being an artist. You're also a musician. What do you play?
Oh no, I don't do
Oh,
music.
you're not music.
No, just
Okay.
artist as in painting and drawing, that kind of an artist. I wish I was a musician, but I can't claim that one. Can't claim it. But you said something interesting. You said when women, would you say, are acknowledged, or that's the problem. There are so many women who have done things that never got the credit. Look at these movies that are coming out. Wasn't it there was something back in World
Hurt
War
Locker. Hurt Locker.
Yeah, that one. There's so many of them that are finally acknowledging some of these women who have done extraordinary things and made huge impacts on the world and humanity, and yet, they're pushed down and not recognized. So I when you said that, um, there should have been a lot more women that have been recognized for the things that they've done.
Yeah. Do you feel that people in the limelight, whether it be sports, entertainment, and so forth, um, I mean, it bothers me the criticism that people, male or female for that matter, but in this case, women, get criticized for speaking out on a particular subject. They have a stand that, I'm sure that there are issues that you would stand on your soapbox and talk about. And then someone's going to turn right around and say, look, you're a sports person, just stay in your lane kind of thing. It's like,
Oh, I see what you're
wait a
saying.
minute.
Yeah, right. Right,
Have you,
all the actors who speak up and then
yeah,
right, they get it they dip into politics and people think they shouldn't.
no,
Um,
politics or religion or
religion.
what have you. I found so fascinating at in 2020 March was how many people in radio and television somehow miraculously achieved their epidemiology credentials. I'm going, what? You know, or are you just reading that off the prompter and you really don't know anything about what's going on?
Right.
Um, you've been involved primarily and your interest is in football and rugby and those types of things. And I think, oh, I see where I got my confusion here regarding music, that you've been involved in both professional sports and the music industry.
Oh, there you go.
The music
That I
industry.
claim. Yeah,
Tell me about that. I love music.
I do too. It's wonderful. I was a VP creative up at Atlantic Records, the Warner Vision division. And it was my favorite job that I ever had. I when this our division moved to LA, we were in New York.
Hmm.
When it moved to LA, they asked if I wanted to go, and I chose to stay in New York. And I'm glad I did, but I have missed it ever since. That was the music industry was so much fun, so much fun.
Oh, I can only imagine. I mean, I've been in radio since I was 19. It's 1979 August I got involved, although I was always curious about. My father was an appliance repairman, and among other things, or he repair. Yeah, and so I had this turntable, portable turntable, and a reel to reel, and I'd have a radio over here, and I had microphone there and there, and I just played around. I wasn't trying to accomplish anything other than just having some fun.
Mhm.
And then in '79, I got this job of working for this one station, and it's never been. I went to work in a warehouse for about a year, had great health benefits, so I was able to get a lens implant that allowed me to see much better, but I just couldn't stay away.
Yeah.
And the irony is, I now work still for a radio station, But now I live 200 miles away, and the technology has gone to the point where it used to be I would have to bicycle out to the transmitter site 8 to 10 miles from my home. And now I'm 200 miles from the station, and and yet I'm
Perfect.
still doing my thing.
Yeah.
When you got involved in these sports, because obviously injuries are part of the game. Um, you obviously knew that. How did you psychologically work through that? And then what kind of injuries did you sustain over the years that maybe slowed you down a little bit, but didn't stop you?
I was fortunate. I didn't have any serious injuries. Believe it or not, I've never broken a bone, which is a miracle because ever since I was little, I did really stupid things. I should have broken bones. Um, but oddly enough, no, I did not break anything. Now, of course, people did. My players did. The concussions, we had everything that the men do in football. The difference though with the women, they have to think about, gosh, I hope I don't break my arm because I need it for my job. I support my family. We don't have the paychecks and the endorsements or even the NIL, things like that. So, it was an issue if it got in the way of living, but it was all for love of the game, and we all knew it. I mean, when I played flag back in the early '90s, it was 8-on-8 full contact, so it wasn't tackle, but it was
Hmm.
if if a pulling guard could clear out someone, go for it. And an ambulance showed up probably every week, but
But it wasn't for you.
I'm sorry.
I say it was not for you though.
No, no, it wasn't for me. But yeah, it's something we all knew, and it was just love of the game. We never thought it would be us. You never think it's going to be me. So you just get out there and play and have fun.
Would you consider obviously the sport that the sports you've been involved in sort of your life's purpose, but not so much playing the game uh, as much as Charles Barkley, I remember him saying this, claimed he was not a role model back in the late '80s, early '90s before he became a Phoenix Sun. I had mixed feelings about him initially, but I loved the guy's fight on the court. But would you say that another part of your life's purpose is to be a role model for others, to show other women you can, if you want to, you can.
Well, I never set out for that, but it kind of has turned into that. Um, it used to be, do what I do, watch me do what I do. Now it's, listen to me, do what I say.
Hmm.
Um, and it's just kind of, I think all women who have achieved any modicum of success need to speak up because, finding, I know what football did for me is I found my voice.
Hmm.
And it means a world of difference when you can change a life by speaking up, change your life by speaking up, but also encouraging others to speak up, find your voice, don't don't diminish yourself, don't shrink away from it. Do what you love and be yourself. And that's kind of my message is, speak up, be yourself, don't ever quit. Don't ever quit. I mean, I loved football, like I said, since I was little, and I always wanted to write a book about it. And this is the second book that I've written, which is about, the first one is about the Sharks and a coming of age story where I always wanted to play. Of course, I couldn't. I was a girl. I go to New York City to pursue my second passion, which was art. I end up owning this football team, playing in it, and we win the national title. And that's all based on a true story.
Hmm.
And but what I was going to say is never giving up because I always felt like this, I would write a book and something would happen with that book. And the first book has been optioned by Universal Television for a series.
Wow.
Let's hope it gets happen. Let's hope it happens.
I hope so too.
Um, but I think, I never gave up on it. And I think that's what people have to persistence. If I could say one word to anyone, persistence. Just keep on persisting and
Mm,
hopefully it'll happen.
absolutely. Andra Douglas, my guest, and we're talking about changing cadence, and we're talking about it here on Tell Me Your Story. Reverend Dr. D here with Andra Douglas, and she's sharing with us, certainly, as the phrase goes, her authentic self in her new book, which is Changing Cadence. Um, the interesting thing about it, and I sometimes have to make the comment that no, I'm not going to move that fast. I know that you want it yesterday, but I guess I'm from the old school that says I want it done right. I want to make sure that it's quality and not quantity here. So you're going to have to wait, and if you can't wait, then go to somebody else to get it done faster. Whether it's done better or not, I have no way of judging. And it's like I took the position when I was operations manager for a number of different stations. People would ask me, "So, do you know what the competition's doing?" I said, "I haven't a clue, nor do I care." And they were shocked. I'm sure my general managers were probably shocked too. But I said, "Look, I run the interior of this operation. That's my job. And my job, as I see it, is to make us better today than we were yesterday and better tomorrow than we are today, which is no reflection on what we were yesterday or today. We were what we were, we are what we are. But there's always room for improvement, as good as we might be."
Yeah.
Do you find that is true with the especially the female athletes that, in addition to their own personal endeavors in the sport and wanting to encourage other women, girls and women to get involved, that they want to do the same thing with the sport. They want to make it better. Not necessarily safer, which I'm sure is still part of the equation,
Yeah.
but that, again, there's always room for improvement.
There's always, no matter who, no matter what, there's always room for improvement. And I think what has propelled the women's sports is the fact that the product is getting better and better and better. As I mentioned earlier, there's becoming a feeder system.
Hmm.
Little girls are encouraged to play and be athletes. I was a weirdo when I was little because I was an athlete and I wanted to play all these sports. Well, my generation had to be weirdos, but today's generation, they're encouraged and they're cool if they
Mm.
play sports, which is fantastic. But yes, I mean, getting better as the feeder system comes around, the athletes get better. Um, they can do they can play their sport full time because they're getting paid, albeit
Hmm.
not as much as the men's.
Sure.
But it's coming around. There's always room for movement, growth, and being better. Always.
And that whole pay inequity has always disturbed me. It's like, wait a minute, I'm sorry, but this woman is doing exactly the same job as the man right next to her there. Why isn't she paid exactly the same? That makes no sense to me. But then again, I'm no businessman, so I don't know the whole reason behind that, and I don't think there is a
Well,
valid reason.
I mean, at one point, again, I'm going to go back to the product.
Hmm.
If you put 10 years ago, let's just say, if you put a WNBA team on the court, two teams, and watched a game, and then watched the men's, you see the difference. I don't care who it is, whether it's, dogs and cats. If there's a
Hmm.
difference between the games and one of them's not as fun to watch, you're going to watch the other game.
Hmm.
And, it's all about return on investment when you talk about sponsors and investors. If they're going to invest $1 million and lose it, then you're not going to get investors. But as the product gets better and all of a sudden, you know, it's dogs and dogs, not dogs and cats, they're both the same, that's when everyone starts piling in. And right now, people are seeing the emergence of women in sports and how good and also how lucrative. It's always about the return on investment. So
Mm.
people are jumping in with their sponsorships, with their investments. Some icons, Tom Brady has invested in certain women's sports teams, things like that. So, as the product becomes better, then that's when the pay scale is going to get equal. Look what happened to tennis.
Yeah.
As the women got as good as the men, now their pay is about equal. So, I think that's where the discrepancy came in, and it wasn't fair, but it's the women are becoming just as good as the men.
Yeah. I mean,
And
I
I
think,
don't mean that I mean, tackle football, just say, I don't want to play in the NFL. I never did. I wanted to play on a women's team. I can't compete, with the men. They're huge and they're
Mhm.
fast and they would probably kill me. Uh, but I can compete in a women's league. So that's what I mean by being equal. Just the opportunity, the
Yeah.
opportunity.
Andra Douglas is my guest. I am Reverend Dr. D. Richard Dugan, and this is Tell Me Your Story. I want to ask you about something that is happening, and and some of these things ebb and flow over the course of the years. But there's something happening that is rather exciting, and I don't know if it's going to be in the 2028 Olympics that'll be held here in Los Angeles. But you've got flag football in particular that's heading for the Olympics.
That's
Now,
right.
I don't know whether it's both male and female. I would think it's flag
It's,
football. Is it just women's
no,
football?
it's men's and women's flag football.
How does that make you feel?
Um, Fantastic, proud, a little bittersweet. Um,
Because you can't play?
yeah. It's like,
Well, you
oh,
can
you
get a
little
seat in the
creeps.
stands
I'm
and
so mad.
watch.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
You can get in a seat, get in one of the seats in the stands and watch
Do you
and
know what?
live
I
vicariously through those women on the field.
I just bought my ticket to the gold medal game.
Oh,
So,
wonderful. Wonderful.
yeah, so I will definitely be there. And I like to think that I and my teams had a little bit to do with this. I mean, we were all such pioneers. And we're still doing things to promote the sport and further it along. But I'm really excited that it's going to be there. Really excited. Long, long, long overdue and well deserved.
Yeah. And I know that sports, when as far as the Olympics are concerned, they come and they go. I mean, I think there was a point in time when they did have golf in the summer games. I don't know if they still do.
Oh,
And
I
that
don't
was
know.
controversial too because not a lot of people feel that golf, as much fun as I love watching the game, I've never played, I've only practiced, but they don't really consider it to be an athletic sport in the same way as, say, baseball or football or basketball is. But you hope that flag football. Do you think that tackle football might someday make it into the Olympics, or is that a little too rough? Do you think?
I don't know. That's just kind of the horse of a different color. I would say no. I would say
Okay.
no, but
Yeah.
I
I
really
mean,
don't know.
yeah. I mean, some might even say that golf in particular, it's there, it's not. Well, okay, if you're going to have golf, let's have horse racing because you got the jockey up on top there. There's
Yeah,
somebody, a human being, who's part
right.
of the thing.
But
Um,
in golf's defense, I've played a lot of sports in my life. Golf is the hardest sport I have ever played.
really?
I used to be pretty good. It's hard because it's really hard to be consistent.
Hmm.
And if one little thing is off, the tiniest little thing, it's not going to go where you want it to go.
Yeah.
And a lot of the other sports are a little more forgiving than this game. So I give all kudos to golfers.
I've seen some incredible shots. When I was out practicing, a good friend of mine took me out to I think it was the Sandpiper there in Santa Barbara, out west of Goleta, and took me to the driving range. And of course, I had never picked up a club before, so he had me swinging away just at nothing, to get my form and so forth.
Uh-huh.
And then he said, "Okay, put a ball on the ground and don't hit it. Well, I just want you to back away a little and swing at it. And okay, now go ahead and swing away. And I took my stance and I pulled the club back and I hit that ball a mile. And my buddy from the golf cart said, expletive it. We're done. Because apparently he didn't think I needed any more. I was fine. All I needed to do now was play 18 holes. I would love at the very least to have that experience.
You
Just to
should.
play one 18-hole set.
Absolutely you
Yeah.
should.
And
You
I'll
should.
bet you up here at Lake Arrowhead, somewhere in the neighborhood, up here on the mountain, there's got to be a golf course. Even if it's a 9-holer, you just play it twice, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
There is something about it. And of course, I've also heard the comedians say, yeah, it's the one game that ruins a perfectly good walk in nature.
Yeah. Well, and then there's that.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you a little bit about your background, especially philosophically speaking. How were you raised and where are you today? How have you kind of taken a look at your own personal transition from how you were raised? And again, I know some people, they aren't raised with any philosophical foundation or underpinnings. But can you share with us a little bit about you and that inner life that we all have?
Life. Well, I grew up on a cattle ranch in Central Florida. My grandfather bought it back in the 30s. My dad ran it. We still have a lot of it. So I did a lot of outdoor things, hunting and fishing with my dad, going to football games, of course. I have two sisters. They're both older, so I kind of was raised kind of as an only child. They were 6 and 8 years older. I had two great parents, a tight-knit family, but also my parents weren't they weren't controlling. They let us do what we needed to do. And I think that my parents saw that my creativity, Florida wasn't going to hold me, they thought. And they put me into, I went to Florida State for my undergraduate. And then they suggested that I go to Pratt Institute for my master's. And I came up here and got into art, and I never looked back. Well, never looked back. I love Florida. In fact, I have a house there still, and as do my family members. And I go back every winter.
Hmm.
But yeah, I had a interesting childhood, very interesting. From the ranch, and then my mom had a different side of life that was not quite so outdoorsy. It was her side of the family was more doctors and uh, lawyers, etc. So I like to tease. I felt like I was on the cast of Green Acres, So, um, it was I was out hunting with dad, and then just in time for high tea with mom at the club. It was a very you know, different.
Mhm. Uh, were you considered a tomboy?
Oh yes,
Okay.
yes, yeah. I played everything from the time I was able to get out and run around. My dad took me fishing and taught me how to shoot a gun when I was, I don't know, 7, 8 maybe.
Hmm.
I always loved sports with the neighborhood kids, most of them boys. I usually beat them. So, so some of them even petitioned in high school for me to play on the boys' high school varsity team. They just felt that I could add something, and I did too. But the coach said no.
Oh,
One more no, one more no. But fortunately, when I bought the Sharks, it was finally that yes.
you mentioned that you bought the Sharks. You owned the Sharks, the team. Uh,
Yeah.
do you? Again, I don't know statistically speaking, but do most of the women's sports teams are most of them owned initially by women, or is it usually you have, like you mentioned, Tom Brady and investing in as
Yeah.
opposed to owning? Uh, or do you find that men are realizing too that yeah, it's a good investment, and I want to promote women's sports because they deserve the opportunity to compete and so forth?
Right. Well, when I bought the team, this was back in the year 2000. Women's sports had a very different face back then.
Hmm.
Um, in that particular, I'll speak for women's football. There were 11 franchises for sale, and out of those 11 initial teams, I'd say 8 or 9 of them were women owned,
Hmm.
and uh, for myself and probably for the others too, I bought the team because no one else did. We did, there were no investors, there were no other men speaking or, stepping up. I took money out of my savings account because I wanted to play football. And by God, I was going to get out on that field if I had to empty my bank account. Um, so I think that's what a lot of the other women did too. That has changed. Not so much in women's football, but in women's sports, that has changed dramatically. I mean, we have these teams are in some of them in basketball. What was it? I just saw one valued at. I shouldn't say, but it was over 100 million, I think.
Wow.
So, and, in year 2000, that that was just insanity to think that. But, again, we got the feeder system, the talent's coming up. We're getting the exposure, we're getting on TV. People are realizing, hey, these women can play. And now it's becoming a commodity, which is great to see.
Yeah. So would you say that it's sort of I don't want to say necessary evil, but it's like part of the equation that that if we can make it an economically viable thing, this is going to give women the opportunity to play if they want to play like you. So it's like achieving two goals at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
it
that's
is.
fantastic.
Yeah, it's always nice to have someone who invests their money get a return on it, but it's also like you said, it helps the women to get out there and have the experience. And women's or sports does so much for a person. Boys, girls, men, women. Sports just it really rounds out a person. I feel strongly about that.
Now, growing up on a ranch, and I'm obviously, I am personally surprised that they have cattle ranches in Florida. I thought they were mostly in the Midwest and in Nebraska and North Dakota and South Dakota and so forth, and Wyoming.
Everyone's surprised at that, but
Yeah.
Florida, I don't know about today, but Florida was third behind Texas and I want to say Wyoming.
Wow.
It's Florida's huge cattle ranching. Everyone just thinks of the beaches along the edges, and
Hmm.
but everything in the middle, cattle ranch.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is amazing. Um, what was the philosophy? Maybe there was a phrase that you learned as you were growing up and working the ranch that still applies to your life today. Was there, I don't know, the word that keeps coming to mind, catchphrase, but was there a philosophy that you were taught, maybe by your father or some of the other people that worked the ranch that had been there many, many years, that you have taken and it's now part of your life and what you are all about, who you are all about?
Well, I'd say there are two things.
Hmm.
My mom used to tell me, she saw me battle with wanting to do things that I couldn't because I was a girl. And um, she would just tell me, Andra, don't you ever take a back seat to anyone. And she says, you're a lucky little girl to have the life you do, but don't you take a back seat to anyone.
Mm.
That always stuck with me. Uh, then when I started playing, I had a coach, and he said, confidence is born of demonstrated ability. And that took me a minute. I had to roll that around in my head. Okay, confidence is born of demonstrated ability.
Mm.
Okay. So, you picture in your mind, yeah, I'm going to get out there and I'm going to throw this pass and I got it down. I know exactly how to do this and this. Well, you can think about it all you want, but until you get out there and do it and you see, yes, I can, that's when things begin to change. So I would say those two things, you know, those two things.
Is there anything that you have done up to this point that surprised you? Oh, wow. I actually did that. And you sort of amazed yourself.
Um, Probably my books.
Ah.
Um, I never claimed to be a writer. I always loved it.
Mm-hmm.
Claimed to be a writer. I didn't take classes. Uh, but I had that desire since I was little, and I sat down and wrote the book. And this, I'm talking about the first one. And when it was done, and I put it out to the world, the reviews were, incredible. I was so shocked and pleased. And sometimes I say to myself, I don't, who wrote that book? Who wrote that book? Because it's just, yeah, I'm surprised that I'm surprised, but I'm not. I'm surprised at the world's reaction to it. And then Universal Television picked it up. Um, so yeah, I'm like, wow, look what I did. Yeah.
Yeah. I had one of those experiences in myself. I produce as well as narrate audiobooks. And I worked with this one woman who flew down from Washington State, and we went into the studio. We did it in 4 hours. I did 2 hours in the morning, went to lunch, came back and finished it up in the afternoon. And then I produced it up with little musical transitions between the chapters, some sound effects here and there, burned it to a CD and all of that stuff. And I put it in the CD player of the car, and I'm driving down the road and I'm listening to it, and I'm going, there were two reactions. It's like, wow, I I created that. I produced that. I didn't write the book, but I produced the audio book.
Right.
And and then, wow, it sounds like grandma reading to the grandkids. I was almost in tears. But it was totally humble attitude, you know. So I think that we all sometimes we forget about the things that we know that we can do, and then we take on things that maybe we've never done before. And it's not to say that I had never recorded books before then. I was with my first wife, who was totally blind. I was recording books all the time, as well as reading out loud to her.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't necessarily new, but it was that product, if you will, that I'm listening to going, whoa, this is pretty cool.
It's like, oh wow, did I do
Yeah,
that?
that was the exact phrase, thinking of little Urkel. Did I do that?
Right.
Andra Douglas, my guest, and Changing Cadence is the book, and this is Tell Me Your Story. Reverend Dr. D here with Andra Douglas, and I wanted to ask you a little bit about what gives you um, the guidance. We promote on this program the this aspect of uh, uh, um, encouraging people during what we call this the decade of perfect vision, the 2020s. And we ask people to go within to listen to that still small voice and follow the promptings as well. How has your inner voice guided you through all of these challenges? And I love what your mother said. Don't let anybody force you don't ever take a back seat to anybody. I love that. That is fantastic. What about that inner guidance that we all have, but we don't always all listen to it?
Well, my favorite saying is to thine own self be true.
Hmm.
And I think people don't follow their gut enough. Um, I still don't do it as much as I should, but nowadays, if I get a hunch or a feeling, or, I tell myself, if you have an inkling that you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't say this, you shouldn't go there, if you have just even a little inkling, don't do it. Same with doing things. If you have any kind of desire to, take that class, write that book, produce that show, if you have anything that you're thinking about that you want to do it.
Hmm.
And I think that's, there's always that little person, sitting on one shoulder or the other, that little voice that's guiding you, you just have to listen. You just have to listen. It's there.
Yeah, it is there. It is absolutely there. And the more that we do it, we listen and follow the promptings. Um, it almost, we don't want it to necessarily become second nature, but it almost becomes that.
Mhm.
I'm driving, for example, when we were living in Santa Barbara, and there were a couple of different pathways to the radio station. And so as I'm getting to the fork in the road, so to speak, I'm kind of putting that out there saying, okay, which way today? And some days I'd be guided to go to the left, and some days to the right, and other days, you choose. Oh,
Mhm.
okay.
Right.
um, and it also can be beneficial. I'm sure you've probably run into this as well, where I needed to make this a financial decision, and yet I'm arguing with the voice going, but that goes against the plan I have.
Yeah.
And of course, the prompting won't go away. And okay, okay, I'll do it. And then a few days later, I look back and go, oh my God, if I hadn't done that back there,
Yeah.
oh, I can't even imagine what the conditions would be today.
Yeah.
So it's so important for us to do that. And I know that a lot of people listening, they struggle with that. But I think that with what you have accomplished,
Well,
what you do,
yeah.
um, people can
People
do
will tell you
anything.
that you can't too, or that you shouldn't. I
Yeah.
mean, I bought a home one time and everyone looked at me like I was crazy. Well, not one time, I'm still living in it. But I bought a home and everyone looked at me like I was crazy. That's too expensive. It's old. It's you shouldn't in all these whys. And nope. Nope, I'm gonna do it. For whatever reasons, that little voice said, do it, do it,
Yeah.
do it. I did it. It's one of the best decisions I've ever made in my life.
Well, I have a good friend who shared those sentiments you just talked about from your others, but she shared it with me after we'd bought the house. She says, when you first told me, I thought, are you on crack? Are you crazy? You know? But she says, I held off saying anything to wait and see what happened. And she says, now the only response I have is, I can't believe. Are you kidding? You actually pulled it off.
Yeah.
You know, it would be the equivalent of buying a house back in 2008, 2009.
Mm.
Are you kidding? And back then, all you had to do is fog a glass,
Oh,
a mirror,
exactly.
you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
And it's been 20 years, and my wife and I went through the process. It's been 20 years since we owned a home. And it's like things have changed on one level, and yet it's all still the same. You still have to jump through all these hoops. And if you're willing to jump through all these hoops and not get frustrated and know that, hey, just like with you on the field, you know that when that ball is hiked, there are certain things you have to do in order to achieve what your team wants to achieve, and so forth. And then when you do that, and things, and of course in sports, doesn't always turn out the way you'd like to think. You did your job, and other people did their job, but then you've got the opponents who are trying to do their job too.
Yeah.
How do you reconcile that kind of thing, both on the field, but also off the field in life, when there are certain things we can't control, and yet at the same time there are certain things we can? How do you juggle that? How do you play with that?
I think you just have to set your mind and so many times people would tell me, no, you can't do that for whatever reasons. You're a girl, you don't have this, you don't do, for whatever reasons. And um I never wanted to, yeah, you're wrong. I'm gonna, I never set out to prove someone wrong. I just said, okay, I'll find another way.
Hmm.
And and I went around to the side door and then to the back door and then knocked on the windows and then I made my own window. I mean, you just I go back to persistence, perseverance, persistence. And I think I really believe that's a key.
Yeah. My favorite phrase that I came up with was, and it was primarily when I was working with computers and I was building them back in the 90s and 2000s. There's always a workaround. And that's
Mhm.
really, you epitomize that because of the way you just described that. Yeah, they won't let me come through the front door. So
There's got to be another
how
one.
else? And maybe you're going to have to come through the roof or just go through the wall.
Exactly.
Do what you
And
have
if
to do.
all else fails, I'll build one next to it and have my own.
I was just going to say, yes. And do you find that that's kind of what's happening these days, especially in women's sports? That the roots of women's sports is that they wanted to, women want to play, but the men won't let them play, so to speak. It's almost like on the playground.
Right.
So they're going to make their own teams
Right.
and so on and so forth. And they made their own way.
And that's what it should be. We should have our own leagues,
Hmm.
and not have to be, compete against the men or the men competing against,
Yeah.
we should have our own. So yes, I think we did, make our own way.
So there, specifically football, uh, you will never see, and maybe we shouldn't see women on men's teams because women are still not they're not as tough. They certainly can be, but by the same token, I'm thinking about like the I can't even think of the players' positions and what have you. The receivers who run to catch the ball and run it in the end zone. They
Right.
need to be light and fast on their feet, but all
Yeah.
the other guys need to be bulky and big and so forth. And
Yeah.
if the receiver gets hit, oh, I've seen some bells rung over the
Yeah.
years.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you just some of those NFL players are 6'5", 330 pounds. I think probably one of the biggest female players is I'm going to make this up, 6 feet 280.
Hmm.
I mean, the difference is huge. You
Hmm.
cannot put someone like that. A wide receiver in the NFL, they're 6 feet something. Um, our wide receivers, I'm 5'8". I played wide receiver. I'm 5'8", and I was pretty tall.
Mm.
So, there's just no way to compete physically. It doesn't mean that the men are better athletes, but they're just bigger.
Yeah. Well, I'll participate in this. I'm 5'9". I will participate by eating a hot dog in the stands.
Yeah.
This where it's safe for the most part. My favorite sport, of course, is baseball. I absolutely love the game. Terry Cashman, who is a musician who wrote a song that epitomizes my feeling, it's baseball in ballet, and
Mhm.
it's just it's. I'm not a fan of the rules, but once that ball is hit, the game is still the same. But I've had it with the a clock, really. I mean, so let's put a time limit on the golfers. The game of baseball and the game of golf, they're as long as they are. Okay?
Yeah.
That's the reason why they're played the way they are. There's a clock in basketball if you want a clock. There's a clock in football if you want a
Right.
clock, and a bunch of other sports. But I will tell you, my favorite winter sport in the Olympics, strangely enough, although I love the luge, believe it or not, curling.
I knew you were going to say that.
I
Uh-huh.
am shocked that there was controversy. I really am. I heard that there was at one point in one match, there was some controversy. I don't know if it was the brush they were using or
Really?
there was something that wasn't quite kosher, so to
Ice
speak.
and curling? I love it.
I'm shocked. I was too. I was like, really? How could you? What were they wearing the wrong shoes? Yeah. But again, going back to the Triple Crown, the Kentucky Derby, Preakness, and the Belmont. My wife and I, we were going to place a bet one year there in Santa Barbara when we were in Santa Barbara, and we couldn't get into the place where we could place the wager. And she had the horse that we were going to wager. It won.
No.
I know. Out was like, no.
Oh. See, I'd rather it not win. I'd just
Oh,
rather.
the
Oh, it's
horse
on the
won,
field.
but we couldn't place the bet. But we're betting on you and your book, which is Changing Cadence. And we encourage folks to go to your website. And that website, once again, is AndraDouglasArt.com. Okay. ANDRA DOUGLASART.com will be linked to that website. So I hope, folks, you will go there to find out more about Andra Douglas. And I have three final questions that I ask all of my guests that I would like to ask you. Before I do, I want to thank you for listening to and watching Tell Me Your Story, New Paradigms for a New World, where we're giving you choices and knowledge of those choices to help make your dreams come true. Sundays at 7 a.m. and 7 p.m., Monday mornings at 1 a.m., Wednesdays at 9 a.m., and we're also Monday through Friday from 8 to 9 a.m. That's 9 programs streaming live at all those times at richarddugan.com. We have the podcasts on SoundCloud, iTunes, TuneIn Radio, Spotify, Stitcher, Player FM, Blueberry, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music. We're also on YouTube and Rumble, and we hope that you will click subscribe and notification. We also would like you to go to Amazon and get a copy of my book, Choices, 5 Steps for Life, in hardcover, paperback, or Kindle. And we also hope that you can, if you can so do so, leave us a tip in our tip jar. It's PayPal. Just put in my email address, richard@richarddugan.com, and support us with whatever you can. We'll take energetic support as well. And I'll remind you one more time that I've already mentioned it in the program. Please take the time during this, the Decade of Perfect Vision, to spend some time in that quiet, peaceful, calm, still place and listen to that still, small voice. With the final 3 questions, we go to our very special guest. And question number 1 is, who is Andra Douglas?
Is that my...
That is your question.
Me? Well, who am I? You know what? I'm an artist, an author, an athlete, just trying to do the best I can in this world and help others and hope that everyone finds what they're looking for.
What gets you up in the morning?
A parrot.
Now that's a new one.
I often tell this. I absolutely love my life. And sometimes when I go to sleep at night, I can't wait to wake up to start the next day. And people think I'm nuts, but that's the honest to goodness truth.
And our final question. What was your best day?
Wow. All of them. I just, like I said, I love life. Probably the best day is going back to my coach who said confidence is born from demonstrated ability. And finally, that day, I don't remember when it was, but probably it was that day when I thought, wow, I could do this.
Well, again, I thank you so much for joining us here on the program, and I thank you folks for listening to and watching Tell Me Your Story. And until our next broadcast, podcast, videocast, love Talal. Jeanette, I'm still listening. Dad, continue to be happy because I am. Smokey, I will see you on the other side. To my dear friend Zorro, aho, aho.